A tour-level iron with a razor-thin sole looks stunning in the display case. It also punishes almost every mishit a recreational player makes. Here's the strange part. Pro shops keep selling these blades to women who would benefit far more from something built to forgive. That mismatch is quietly costing strokes on every single hole. This video names the 5 iron sets to stop using. It also names the 5 that will actually get the ball airborne and rolling toward the green. Stick around, because the winner at the end might be the set already sitting on a clearance rack for less than you'd expect. Here is the one idea that decides everything in this video. A forgiving iron is simply one that keeps helping the ball even when contact isn't perfect. Tour blades are shaped to reward a swing that's fast, repeatable, and compresses the ball at the center of the face almost every time. Most recreational women don't swing that way, and honestly, most recreational men don't either. A more relaxed, natural tempo means the club needs to do more of the work. That isn't a weakness. It's just a different swing profile, and the equipment should be built around it, not against it. It helps to understand why blades exist at all. Forged blades were designed decades ago for players who wanted total control over shot shape and trajectory, players hitting hundreds of balls a week and grooving a repeatable strike. The design hasn't changed much because tour professionals still ask for it. What has changed is who's buying them. Equipment manufacturers know that a beautifully polished blade sells itself on looks in the display case, regardless of whether the buyer's swing can actually support it. That's not a conspiracy. It's just marketing meeting human nature. But it means a lot of well-meaning golfers walk out with the wrong tool for the job. It's also worth remembering how the golf equipment market itself is built. Most iron sets are still designed, tested, and marketed with a male tour player as the reference swing, even when the target buyer is a recreational woman with a completely different swing speed and attack angle. Women-specific lines exist, but they often amount to little more than a lighter stock shaft and a shorter length dropped into the same head that was engineered around a much faster swing. The actual internal geometry, the sole width, the center of gravity placement, rarely gets rebuilt from scratch for a slower, smoother tempo. That's a structural gap in the industry, not a personal failing on the part of any golfer standing in a pro shop trying to make a good decision. Let's start with what to stop using. Number 1, the classic forged blade, the kind with a thin top line and almost no offset. These are gorgeous. They're also merciless. Miss the center by even a small amount, and the ball can drop well short with a weak, low flight. A friend who plays several times a week switched out of a set like this and instantly saw more consistent distance on her mishits. Beautiful engineering, just not built for a natural, unhurried swing. Blades like this often trace back to designs from the 1980s and the 1990s, when the assumption was that anyone buying forged irons was already striking the ball dead center most of the time. That assumption simply doesn't hold for the vast majority of recreational golfers, regardless of gender or years played. Even many club professionals, people who practice for a living, choose a slightly larger cavity back for their own bags because they know exactly how unforgiving a true blade is under real course pressure. Number 2, the compact player's cavity back, the kind marketed as a step up from game improvement irons. It sounds like a good goal to work toward, but the sole is still too narrow and the face too small to forgive a swing that isn't hitting dead center every time. Testing tends to show the same swing losing real distance and accuracy compared to a wider solid design. These irons cost real money. Full forged blade sets from major brands often run past $1,000, and they're punishing that price with lost yards. The irony is that many players buy these sets specifically because they were told it's what they should be working toward, as if forgiveness were something to graduate out of rather than a permanent, sensible feature to keep. Golf media has reinforced this idea for years, treating a player's cavity back as a badge of improvement rather than judging equipment on what it actually does for a scorecard. Number 3, any iron labeled tour only or pro spec sold without a fitting. These sets are tuned for very fast, aggressive swings that generate their own power. Without that speed, the ball simply does not launch high enough to carry hazards or hold a green. It just does not have anywhere to go. Tour spec irons are often built with a stronger, lower center of gravity, meant to control ball flight for players swinging well over 90 miles per hour with their irons. Most recreational players, women especially, are swinging considerably slower than that, which means the launch conditions these clubs are designed around simply never happen for them. The result is a shot that comes off the face feeling solid, but travels shorter and flatter than it should, leaving approach shots consistently short of where the player was aiming. Number 4. Hand-me-down men's irons, especially older ones inherited from a partner or a family member. The shafts are almost always too heavy and too stiff for a smoother tempo. A shaft that doesn't load and release properly kills club head speed before it ever reaches the ball. This is one of the most common mistakes in the game, and it rarely gets talked about. It's an understandable mistake too. A set of hand-me-down clubs is free, and free feels like a good deal until you actually track how many strokes it costs over a season. A shaft mismatch to swing speed can cost 10 to 20 yards per club, and that adds up over 18 holes into a very different scorecard. It also often comes with the wrong length and the wrong lie angle, since men's standard specs are usually built for a taller frame, which compounds the shaft problem with a posture and contact problem on top of it. Number 5. Any iron with a shaft flex labeled stiff or extra stiff, bought off the rack without any real testing. A shaft too stiff for your tempo feels like swinging a broomstick that refuses to bend. The energy stored in the shaft never gets released at the right moment. That means lost distance and a weaker, more inconsistent flight, shot after shot. Shaft flex labels aren't standardized across brands either, so a stiff-labeled shaft from one manufacturer can behave completely differently from a stiff-labeled shaft from another. Buying off a label alone, without a proper fitting or at least a launch monitor session, is close to guessing. Independent shaft testing has shown swing weight and actual bend profile varying widely between brands using the identical flex label, which means two clubs marked exactly the same can feel completely different in the hands. Before we get to what actually works, a quick ask. If honest equipment breakdowns like this one are useful, subscribing helps this channel keep making them. It happens on a regular schedule without ever taking a sponsorship. Now, the 5 sets worth putting in the bag. Number 1. A modern game improvement iron with a hollow cup face design, something like Ping's G430 lineup. The wider sole and larger face bring the ball up quickly and keep it flying straight even on a mishit. Testing tends to show recreational golfers picking up real distance and much tighter shot dispersion compared to a compact blade. A full set typically runs somewhere in the $900 to $1,200 range, well under the price of a tour blade. That's a set doing far more of the work for you. Ping built its reputation on forgiveness going back to the 1960s, when Karsten Solheim first started perimeter weighting irons specifically to help average golfers, and that same philosophy is baked into every modern release. Solheim was an engineer by training, and the company he founded still tests every iron design against golfers of widely varying skill levels before it ever reaches a shelf, not just against tour staff. Number 2. A super game improvement set like Cobra's Air X line, built with an even wider sole and more offset. These are designed specifically for a smoother, more natural tempo, helping the club face square up through impact instead of leaving it open. They tend to launch the ball noticeably higher, which means more carry and a softer landing on the green. Offset in particular gives the hands a fraction of a second more time to square the face before impact, which matters enormously for a slower, sweeping swing that doesn't generate a lot of shaft lean on its own. This category of iron, sometimes called super game improvement, has grown substantially over the last several years, precisely because manufacturers have started paying closer attention to the average golfer's actual swing speed instead of designing everything around the tour. Number 3. TaylorMade Stealth line, or the newer hollow body construction found in its current Chi series. The internal weighting pushes mass low and toward the perimeter, which keeps mishits from losing much ball speed at all. On a monitor, the difference on a shot struck slightly off-center compared to a blade can be dramatic, sometimes a significant chunk of recovered distance. This kind of hollow body construction, sometimes filled with foam to control sound and feel, is one of the biggest engineering shifts in irons over the last decade, essentially bringing driver-style face technology down into the iron set. The foam itself isn't just for sound dampening either. It also allows engineers to thin the face further without sacrificing durability, which is part of what makes the ball come off faster, even on shots struck slightly toward the toe or heel. Number 4. Callaway's Rogue or Elite Game Improvement Irons, both built with a similar forgiving philosophy. Wide sole, larger face, weight pushed to the edges. The trade-off is honest. You give up a small amount of shot shaping control and a touch of spin around the green. In exchange, you get consistency on every single swing, which matters far more for most rounds actually played. Very few recreational rounds are lost because a player couldn't hit a deliberate draw around a tree. Far more are lost to a string of thin or fat shots that never got off the ground, and that's exactly the problem these irons are built to solve. Callaway has leaned into this with what it calls artificial intelligence-assisted face design, running thousands of simulated impacts to figure out exactly where the face needs to be thinned for the widest possible sweet spot. Number 5. A properly fitted graphite shafted iron in a lighter, more flexible profile, matched to an actual swing rather than guessed at off a rack. This one isn't really about the club head. It's about pairing any of these forgiving heads with a shaft that loads and releases at the right moment for a natural tempo. Get that wrong, and even the best iron head in the world underperforms. A proper fitting session usually takes less than an hour and often costs nothing if it's done at the same shop where the clubs are purchased. That hour can be worth more to a scorecard than any single swing lesson. Graphite shaft technology has also improved considerably in the last 10 years, with lighter weights now available without the twisting and instability that gave early graphite iron shafts a bad reputation among serious players. If there's only one pick to make, it's the wider-soled Mishit Face Game Improvement Iron. Fit it properly with a shaft matched to actual tempo, not a number on a shelf tag. That combination does more for consistency than almost anything else in the bag. 2 things worth remembering. Forgiveness isn't a compromise. It's smart engineering doing its job, and a proper fitting matters more than any brand name on the club. What's in your bag right now, and how would you describe your natural swing tempo? Smooth, aggressive, or somewhere in between? Leave it in the comments. Subscribe to the Ladies Caddy.